In general, we all hate talking about money. It's uncomfortable no matter how you look at it, especially audio professionals. Most of us struggle with simply just getting our pricing figured out, but that's a topic for another day. What I want to talk to you about today is negotiating. If you're interested in learning how to set your prices, hit the link in the comments below. We have a free pricing guide that will help you get that under control. So back to topic here about negotiating. So negotiating is a very important thing. And some people, I should say, don't negotiate necessarily, meaning they have a fixed price, that's the price, and that's everything. But depending on if you want to be a person that negotiates, I would recommend always going in first and foremost at a win-win. So what does that mean? Both parties have something to gain. And what does that look like in audio? Well, quite simply, what a good negotiation looks is you're going to provide a service for a client, and that client's going to come in and pay you a fair price within their budget, and you're both going to agree, and you're going to deliver them a great product for a fair price. And as long as you can meet those terms, meaning the client gains something and you gain something, you have a win-win. I've seen it too many times in this business where somebody goes in and they try to negotiate through a win-lose perspective, meaning they're trying to gouge out every single inch on the band that they possibly can, but then they don't want to deliver the right product. Or the band comes in and lowballs the producer as low as possible, and the producers may be desperate for work, so then by the time they get the project, they're bitter and they're jaded, and it's extremely uncomfortable. They're not going to do their best work. So we really want to always try to find that spot that is a win-win, and that is the premise of good negotiating. So now that you understand it's important to have a win-win because you want to do your best work for the client and you want the client to be extremely happy and find something that's in their budget, the first step to that is you're going to need to set a price range when you're negotiating. So I would suggest figuring out like the top price that you think that your time is worth in the ideal circumstance. So maybe pretend you're mixing, maybe that's $1,000 a song, maybe it's $500, maybe you're just starting and it's $250 a song. Whatever, pick a price that you think that you're worth in the ideal conditions that you might be able to get sometimes. And then you want to set a floor, meaning a price where if you got less than that, it would really be uncomfortable for you and you're not going to be very motivated to work. Somewhere in that range, you're going to negotiate. So if we start out, let's just pretend we're mixing at $1,000 a song, you might be willing to go down to $500 a song and even $400 or $350, but once you go below $350, that's completely unacceptable, depending on the complexity of the project and the relationship that you have with the artist. For me personally, I've always been a negotiator, so I like to work within the range, meaning some projects I'll get a lot more than others, but for me, what's really important is the relationship that I have with the artist. And sometimes somebody will come to me and say, look, here's my budget, and I'll just be like, okay, let's do it. And sometimes I'll try to get a little bit more money. And you gotta gauge the project. You know, if the project's gonna be really difficult and complicated, and maybe you've worked with that client before and they're trying to lowball you, you know, that might be something you wanna turn down. Whereas if an artist comes in and it's gonna be relatively easy as a project and you're gonna get top dollar for it, you're gonna be really excited and really motivated. So, you know, again, I like to negotiate. I always try to figure out what the budget is for the artist that I'm working with and see if it fits in what's acceptable for me. And if it is, then I take the project and we go. Okay, here are some powerful negotiating tactics that you can use. First off, the person that has the least to lose in the negotiation has the most power in the negotiation. So for example, let's say that you're just starting out your studio, you have no clients, you're gonna charge X per song, and a band comes in and really lowballs you and offers you Y, but you don't have any clients and you want the work, so of course they're gonna win the negotiation because they can go anywhere else and you don't have any clients. So yeah, you're gonna say yes to all of those opportunities and just take as much as you possibly can. Now, let's say you are booked solid for months in advance and you're in high demand and an artist comes to you and they're kind of coming in at a low range. Well, you can always say no because, hey, look, I'm booked, I'm busy, I have people that want to pay me more money than you're offering me, so I'm not really that interested in the project. Okay, the second negotiating tactic that you can try is what I call the power of concession. You're gonna start off with a price and then you're gonna concede down to a lower price. But the reason you'd want to do this usually is an artist comes to you for the first time and you know that they don't have the highest budget, so you're not going to get top dollar for them. And you want to come in and you want to basically make them feel good and say, hey, you know, this person's giving us a deal, and you want to be honest about it. Kind of like, hey, I'm coming in here, normally I charge X a song, but I'll offer you guys Y, because this is our first time working together. I want to give you a stroke of goodwill, and I want you to feel good about the project. I want to prove to you that I'm going to do an awesome job, and you're going to be really happy. And then if we work together in the future, this is going to be the rate going forward. So offering that instant concession is going to feel really good for the artist. Say, hey, this person's willing to wheel and deal a little bit, and they're going to give us a fair shake and a reasonable price, and we'll see how we like working with them, so it makes it less threatening for them. Now, an important thing to take into consideration with offering concessions is this usually only really works on first-time clients, and you have to have a consistent range here, because if you're giving 10 different bands in your market different prices, they're going to talk, and then it's going to backfire on you, and it's going to make you look bad. So you want to have some sort of fixed level where it's going to be comfortable for them. If people talk, it's going to be consistent. And like I said, I recommend usually trying this sort of tactic on a first-time client and making it kind of a rule. And it can be a powerful, token of goodwill towards a client. So when they come into the studio, they feel good about working with you, and you can really prove to them that you're worth that higher dollar amount. Okay, moving on to our third negotiating tactic. Usually when people see a higher price with something, they assume it has a higher quality. So if you're gonna list your prices publicly, which I usually don't recommend, I like to negotiate everything, but hey, not everybody's me, and some people like to list what they're charging. If you have a higher number on your page, it's going to filter people, but they're going to assume that you're getting a higher quality product out of it. So if you're gonna go back, say, to the concession thing that we were talking about earlier, what you can do is, if you've got that price that you want, if that number is higher, it's gonna make it seem like you're a higher quality. Now, obviously your work needs to back up the price that you're negotiating and you're charging, because if it doesn't, it will backfire. If you charge $1,000 a song to mix and you're going up against other people that do, but your work is half as good, people are gonna look at you and be like, wow, that person's really overpriced. So look, it's really important to be careful and put some serious consideration into selecting the numbers that you're going to be using when you're negotiating, because they have consequences. All right, our fourth negotiating tactic is to learn to walk away. Now, let's make a clear distinction here. In the beginning of your career, and even through the mid-range, until you are booked out months, and I mean months in advance, with endless clientele lined up to come work with you, I highly recommend saying yes to every single thing that comes through your door. But there's going to be a day and a time, if you've worked hard enough, that you're gonna have to start getting selective, because your reputation and your brand has grown to the point where if you start saying yes to certain projects, it will actually make you look bad and hurt your reputation. So for example, say you're working with a bunch of label bands and you come in and do a local band that's extremely new, unprofessional, they don't sound good. If you put out a terrible mix and that A&R guy hears that, that could really, really hurt your reputation if you're, in the mixing against A-list people. So it's important to think about saying no, because at some point in time, you need to evaluate your clientele, and you can negotiate, and you can pick up a lot of, low-hanging fruit work, but you want to be careful with the price that you're getting for it, because the opportunity cost of your time, meaning if you're working on high budget stuff, and you've got a little bit of time to fill, and you've got 10 bands that want to fill it, well, obviously you should be very selective with that. So it's important to know when to walk away from a negotiation. If somebody comes in and maybe the band's got a bad reputation, or they have a reputation for not paying, or maybe they want to lowball you, or you've heard that they're extremely challenging to work with and it's an unpleasant experience from anybody else who's worked with them, and there's a number of reasons. In that case, it's important to be able to walk away. Whereas earlier in your career, you would just say yes, you would deal with it, you would find a way to make it work. But like I said, there's a clear distinction. At a certain point, you just need to learn to walk away from a negotiation and just be like, hey, here's my offer. If you don't want to meet my offer, you don't want to pay my price, then maybe we can work together next time. Okay, last negotiation tip, and that is don't negotiate. Now, negotiation is a powerful tool. I like to negotiate a lot, like I said, but some people, they're like, this is what my time is worth. You either pay it or you don't. So I want $300 a day to track. I want $800 a day to track. I want $1,000 a song to mix. I want $200 a song to mix. Whatever you have, set your price at. That's your price. It's in relation to the market, and you're not going to negotiate. So like I said, negotiating can be powerful, because sometimes, you cut people deals that you've worked with for a long time, and you give them special bro pricing, as we'd put it. Or, you may not be into that. You may just want to have a flat rate for your time forever, for eternity, as long as you're working. Either way, what's right for you, that's really up to that's up to you to decide in your career and do what makes you feel comfortable. Feel free to experiment, and hopefully you'll make the right choice. So in summary, every situation in person is different. You need to figure out what you're gonna be comfortable with and what's gonna work for you. I highly recommend you at least experiment with negotiation, even if you're a fixed pricer and you don't like to change it. See how it works for you and see how your clients react. And over time, you'll figure out what is the best thing for you to do. I'd love to know how you're negotiating and where it's working for you or not in your life and what experiences you've had. So leave your thoughts in the comments below. Please click like and subscribe to this channel, and share it, of course, if you're enjoying this type of content. So I'm Joel Wanasek. This is the Career Builder Show. Thank you so much for watching.